Hi everyone, welcome to this month's security session. And this month we're going to be talking about cloud app security. So I'm Tom Wild, Cloud Solution Architect at Microsoft, working with partners mainly around building security practices and solutions like that. And I've brought in John Burnett. John, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Pleasure to be here. So I'm John Burnett. I'm a partner technology strategist here at Microsoft. But I also sort of have a leaning towards cybersecurity and helping partners and customers on what they can do with Microsoft technology in order to help make them more secure. So it's an exciting time, and talking about cloud app security is really important at the moment.
Cool. So do you want to give us an overview and then a bit of a demo on what cloud app security actually is?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Tom, so as you and I both know, sort of like, users, companies, they're using so many more cloud-based applications these days. So a lot of the time, if you ask an IT manager, how many cloud applications do you think that you're actually using? They might say, I don't know, 30, maybe 40. But what we found is that it can actually be as high as 300 to 1,000 applications within an environment.
Wow.
Yeah, they just don't really know and understand, because rather than IT sort of like purchasing these cloud services, what we're actually finding is it's the other departments within the business, so maybe HR or finance or sort of like the marketing department, and they're just using their credit cards to go out and use these services for a period of time, maybe for a marketing campaign or something, uploading all kinds of company data into these environments without IT really getting an understanding of what that application is, what data is being uploaded, what users accessing it, and even if it's sort of like the work-orientated devices, because now it could be mobiles, people are working from home and using their home environment, but also is it that sort of like people are just using non-work devices. So organizations just don't understand exactly what's going on in their environment these days.
Yeah, so it's one of those challenges, especially with subscription-based model that is in cloud. You can purchase Office 365 or Salesforce or whatever you're using, or Dynamics, those sorts of things, on a monthly per user basis. So that, many companies I've worked for, CRM budgets exist within the sales department and the marketing department. So it's hard for IT to get grips on.
Yeah, absolutely. And they just don't understand, that with their on-premise applications, it used to be super simple. They used to know what was going on. They used to be able to put security controls in place. But now, sort of like, as this is sort of like expanding out to all those cloud applications you're just talking about, it's becoming so challenging to be able to get an understanding of those ones. And as these cloud applications just continue to grow, it becomes more and more of a challenge. As we can see there, some statistics: on average, an organization has 28 different cloud storage applications. So they could be that users are uploading to all those different areas with different types of data, trying to get a handle on that with some of the new regulatory compliance that they need to keep on top of is becoming really challenging. 41 different collaboration applications routinely used by its employees. I mean, there is the security side of this, but there's also the cost side of this as well, and trying to understand exactly how much we're spending on all those different cloud applications. And also, there's a stat there: 80% of employees admit using non-approved SaaS applications in their jobs on a day-to-day basis. So people actually know that they're using applications that maybe aren't approved by the business. It's a fascinating time.
Yeah, that's one of those challenges that people are actually, they're performing shadow IT to get their job done, and be productive, but it might be that they're causing a few security challenges from their IT department by doing it that way and not kind of doing it the proper way. It's shadow IT is really difficult.
It is, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, which is how do we organise the security side of this whilst allowing sort of like the businesses and the users to still be productive. So we need to find a way where we can get the balance correct there. So, but you're absolutely right. So let's have a look at how cloud app security actually works. Where does it fit in? So if we have a look there at the organization, sort of like in the diagram down the bottom there, sort of like that's where the users, the devices, and the data lives traditionally. And then we can see sort of like the cloud applications above there with the firewalls and the proxies, which are securing those. So the way that we work is we can do some discovery first of all, and we do that discovery by taking the logs from the firewalls and the proxies there, and we send those into the cloud discovery dashboard that we're going to have a look at in a couple of minutes. There we can see from those outputs on the firewalls, we can see, right, what applications have been accessed, what users been accessing it, what have they been uploading and downloading for that particular environment. And sort of like we can either do that from our manual point of view, or we can actually set up some automatic connections from those firewalls or proxy servers into Cloud App Security in order to do that discovery piece. We can also use app connectors, so we can actually use the APIs that those SaaS applications provide. So we can put some real controls directly on into those environments by leveraging those standard APIs and those industry standard APIs that those organizations offer out. So we can determine which of those applications, we want to sanction within our environment and those that we don't want to sanction. And then we could actually start putting controls in place, so we can block some of those applications if we wanted to, and we can see from the proxy access and session controls there where we could actually say, no, we don't want to use that application. That's not one that's appropriate for our business. We want to block that, and put controls in place, and maybe even say, look, we don't want to upload specific file types into those individual cloud applications. And finally, we can actually use Azure AD as well to restrict those risky sessions and actually put some controls in place. Maybe they're logging in from a location where that we don't really want them to get access to specific types of data. So we could put some really granular controls in place for the customers there to be able to sort of like have a really good control of those cloud applications.
Okay, cool. So at a high level, Cloud App Security is a SaaS service in itself. It's hooking into firewalls and proxies to look at all the traffic from an organization, their DNS, IP, and things like that, and then recognizes over 16,000 apps in there, and then it can sanction and unsanction. So it can block those applications on those firewalls and proxies. Next step, the app connectors, so it can actually connect to Workday, Dropbox, Office 365, all those applications, and see what's happening within those applications and apply intelligence on there. And then it can affect the user session as well. So like you said with conditional access, if a user's not logging in from a managed device, can we do things like control whether they're actually able to download files from Salesforce or view confidential files from Workday? I mean, you can start playing around with those sorts of things, right?
Exactly that. So we could turn around and sort of, as you just said, we can put all those controls in place and get, visibility first of all, and then leveraging standard controls with the app connectors, and then also sort of like putting rules in place on the proxies access and those session controls.
So it's really important once you get Cloud App Security, and we can talk about trials and things later, but is to connect it up to as many applications as possible, because then you're kind of increasing your security posture on all of your cloud SaaS apps that we can connect to.
Absolutely. You want to discover across all those applications, and then you can then start putting controls in place and trying to understand, right, what do we want to achieve as a business? How do we want to control that data? Absolutely. You're absolutely right.
Cool. Awesome.
Great. So what questions do sort of like businesses need to sort of like be able to ask? They need to sort of like understand, how do they gain visibility into those cloud applications, and how do they understand exactly what the risk is? They also want to know, how can they control and limit access to data, cloud applications, and put those granular controls in place, and make sure that they can prevent data loss in cloud applications to make sure that they can stay compliant with the particular regulations. With GDPR coming in just a few months ago, we want to make sure that we're not uploading data into cloud locations that we haven't got security policies and controls in place on. And also we want to make sure that we can protect those cloud applications in case they're being attacked. Once they're outside of the organization, we want to make sure that we're secure. And with Cloud App Security, we can start helping those customers answer all these questions here. So maybe we want to have a look at the interface.
Yeah, let's have a look at what we're talking about here.
Great.
So you're going to show us the portal of Cloud App Security and kind of what we can do with it, right?
Yeah, exactly that. So here, this is what we've done is we've logged on to the portal. So any customer that's sort of like signed up either for the service or as a trial to the service, they can log on with their standard Office 365 logins to go to portal.cloudappsecurity.com. You can see the domain at the top there, and they can actually log in with their admin credentials, and they'll start seeing this this dashboard straight away.
Okay.
And so this is sort of like the general dashboard, really. Here we can see that we've seen over 5,000 different activities have been monitored, 910 files have been monitored in this particular environment, and 300 different accounts we've seen within the environment. We've sort of like got a number of alerts here, and all these alerts can actually be exported directly into the organization's SIEM environment, and they can use that for analytics purposes, so that this can all be pushed straight into their standard support processes. We can see sort of like a number of incidents here. We've got some high severity incidents, or some and a number of medium incidents over here, and also by the type of alerts that we've got. But we can go into here and see exactly what's going on, and we can use this as a bit of our working dashboard. We can also create dashboards specific for a particular application. So it could be, if we have a look at Office 365, we can see, right, there's been 781 activities monitored during the time frame here, and 244 particular accounts have been user accounts have been accessing Office 365. We can also have a look at the different types of open alerts. So we can do it very granular on an app by app basis. We can also have a look at the risk type as well. So here we can see that there's 4 medium open alerts at the moment, but we can have a look to see whether they've maybe they've logged on from a risky IP address or from a location that we're not approving. Alternatively, has there been a large file download or sort of like activity from unusual, suspicious locations? So we can actually start having a look into this dashboard here.
So John, that's using like Microsoft's Intelligent Security Graph, which we've spoken about on a couple of these calls before. So that's, Microsoft know loads about the internet, and they know loads about kind of risky IPs. Loads of people trying to hack Microsoft and Microsoft customers. Therefore, we've got a list of IPs that are part of botnets and God knows what. Therefore, if someone's logging in from that IP address to Salesforce or Workday or a Microsoft, non-Microsoft app, as long as it's connected to Cloud App Security, they'll get that notification in there. Now, that's something that I think's super smart. That once you've connected it, you get security intelligence applied around that app, which I think is really, really useful for customers.
Yep. Absolutely, and you're quite right. It is the Microsoft Security Graph at the back end which gives all that intelligence, and yet within a short space of time, as soon as you take those logs and ingest them into the environment here, we can start sort of like looking to see all those issues and start sort of like giving value back straight away. So yep, dead easy. You're absolutely right. We can also create a report potentially. So if we want to export this out and have a report that we could present to some of the senior management, we could turn around and say, right, here's a report, and that will actually go through everything that we're seeing within the portal here and sort of like show the various different applications. So that's a really nice feature as well, because like you were saying, really quickly we can ingest all the logs into Cloud App Security and then use that to create that discovery report that goes as a PDF, which they can then use to say, right, these are the areas we need to do something about them, and use that as that reference.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is sort of like, first of all, is that we do take the logs. Either we can manually take them from the individual firewalls and proxy servers. Alternatively, we can take them automatically, and we'll have a look at that later on. But let's say that we were doing an assessment right now. So this particular report has been taken sort of like over a 90-day time frame. So we can take that data over 90 days. And within those 90 days, we can see that we've seen 297 different cloud applications within this environment. So really quickly, we can see, right, how many apps did you think you are going to have, Mr. Customer? And this is the real number of cloud applications that we're actually seeing with your environment. So this really quickly identifies where visibility and whether they've got a real understanding of what's going on. We can see the IP addresses within the environment, how many users they've got that have been logging on to those various different cloud applications, and also the amount of traffic. So we can start sort of like understanding, are we losing, is lots of data being uploaded that we don't want it to be uploaded to? And if we have a look through the different app categories here, we can see that from a traffic point of view, we've had 2.7 gigabytes of data uploaded and downloaded from cloud storage applications, which we would probably be fairly normal. That's sort of like where the most amount of traffic is being sent to and from. We can also see that we've got CRM, various different online meeting and communications channels here as well. And we can see sort of like, the top 15 discovered applications. From a traffic point of view, we can actually start filtering these as well. So it could be that we want to see sort of like the number of transactions. So we could start sort of like seeing which application has got the most number of transactions. So is there something unusual happening with this environment? Are we having a lot of transactions taking place to those unknown or unsanctioned applications? But here we can see that there's a lot of data going to Microsoft OneDrive there, which we'd sort of like say would be fairly normal for a Microsoft Office customer.
And there's a fair bit going to Box as well, but sometimes I see people using this tool to manage their digital transformation or help manage their digital transformation. So you can see people or so you can see traffic in one application decreasing and then traffic in another application increasing, and then you can kind of see, right, well, we've stopped using that app and now we're using this new cloud application for managing our storage and things like that. So there's quite a lot of uses that you can get out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So you start sort of like beginning to get an understanding of what you need to start paying attention to in your company. You can also have a look at the app headquarters location. You might be concerned that there's a particular country that you're uploading your data to. It might be that you're concerned about where you're uploading your company data to, and you might not be wanting to go to some risky countries, or alternatively outside of the location where you are. So you can have a look over the right here on which country those applications are headquartered. Moving up here, we can see what our top entities are as well, so which users are the ones that have uploaded the most, and we can drill into those in a minute, but also we can see the risk level here, so we can see the amount of traffic that's coming from our low risk applications, our medium risk applications, and also we can see we've got a high risk application there that's got 79k that's been uploaded to it. And if we were to click on that, we can actually see what those high risk applications are.
John, do you want to kind of walk us through what those risk numbers or risk scores are on an application?
Yeah, great point. Thanks very much. So here we can see a list of all of the applications that have got considered high risk, and here we can see that high risk is a score of 3 down to 0 really. So we class 10 as sort of like our least risky applications, and from 3 down to 0 as being our most risky applications. And if we would take one here, say Cloud IQ, for example, we can actually sort of like click on that particular application, and we can start sort of like seeing the reasons why we've judged it to be high risk, and this is again using sort of like our intelligence, Microsoft's intelligence around sort of like what we've seen, and we know that sort of like there are some security elements here. Maybe there isn't a valid security name, or maybe it's using HTTP security headers rather than HTTPS. Maybe you're unable to remember the password, and maybe there's a lack of patching there. With maybe it's not up to date. This particular example is patched with Heartbleed, but we can also see down here that sort of like maybe there aren't sort of like the GDPR requirements that we need as an organization, the right to erasure or being able to report those data breaches. And with each one of these, we're just making sort of like assessments about the riskiness of these particular applications. So then the organizations can then say, oh, right, well, we only want to have applications which have a risk score of, maybe 6 or 7 and above, for example, so you can start having a look at those environments.
And that risk score is controllable by an organization as well, because you as an organization, you can say, right, HIPAA is super important to me, so I'm going to give that a multiplier of 8. And then all of the apps that don't have the HIPAA tick box there, it's not green, then the risk score will be slightly higher because you put a multiplier on the effect of HIPAA. And then that's where you can customize it per organization or per industry or vertical or whatever, and start building up, kind of a pattern of what you would do as an organization or a partner for a bunch of organizations, really.
Yep, exactly. So it could be the organizations can make really strong decisions based on those. So it's great. So you can see what's going on with the discovered applications there. Just heading back to the dashboard where we were before, we were having a look at the risky applications. Here we can see a list of all of the applications that we've got within the environment here. So IIS, we've given that a score of 10. We see that obviously as a Microsoft, that we know that we've done everything we can do to make that environment. We can see that 2 kilobytes of traffic has been uploaded, downloaded, and up 1,000 bytes has been uploaded to that particular environment. And what we've actually done here, just in this for a scenario, we've actually set that Microsoft IIS and also the Cisco application down here. We've said in this particular demo environment, we've actually said that this is going to be an unsanctioned application, and we're going to look later on exactly where that comes into play.
Cool. So you've ticked some allowed and unallowed applications, basically, right?
Yes, what we do here is we get a list of all of the discovered applications from the logs that we mentioned earlier on, and then what we could do is we could work with the customer, or then they could go through and say, do you know what, that's an application that we do want to have in the environment, that's an application that we're going to class as being unsanctioned, and you'd go through each one of those and say, yeah, that's going to be sanctioned or unsanctioned in our environment. So if we were, for example, going to say Concur, we would class that as a sanctioned application. So that's sort of like wearing away, and then we've now got that application has now been sanctioned. So we can now apply policies that we'll have a look at those policies later on, and what policies that we can apply to those particular applications.
Gotcha. So if you're, and like I was talking about earlier about app adoption, you could go through all of your cloud storage. I can see you've got a cloud storage option in the top left-hand corner. You could go through all of those applications and unsanction all the ones that effectively you haven't purchased or you don't want people to be using. Perhaps you only want them to be using Amazon Workdocs or Box or Google Drive or OneDrive. Unsanction all the rest, and effectively that means your users can't use them again, right?
Exactly. Or you can turn around and you can actually, the policies you create could be a little bit more granular than that. So you could say, yep, you can't use it. Alternatively, every time someone does use it, we want to get notified, for example, or we want to have particular controls around those particular applications, or maybe we want to say, right, you can't upload any, PII data, PCI data into those particular applications. So you can be quite granular with those controls. But yes, but here we'd start off now, and it's a great example you mentioned, all of the cloud storage applications, and here we can go through and say, right, these are the ones that we're going to approve in our environment, these are the ones that we aren't going to approve in our environment.
Awesome.
Yep, it's a great place to start. We can also have a look at which IP addresses that we've got. You can see whether there's any anomalies. Is somebody connecting from an IP address that we wouldn't expect? The vast majority of the time is that these are going to be internal IP addresses within the environment. Is any one of these IP addresses doing something unusual? So it might not be a user. Is there something within the environment? Maybe is it uploading a lot of data somewhere? Is there one particular machine in the environment that is doing something that we find unusual? So we can actually start having a look, and we can start filtering it either on the number of transactions that we've seen with that environment, or alternatively the amount of data that's being uploaded as well. What's probably a little bit more useful on a day-to-day basis, you can start finding out which users are uploading the most amount of data. If we found someone who's uploading a lot of customer-sensitive data into their own personal Dropbox, for example, we can start turning around and saying, look, is someone just about to leave the organization and they're taking a lot of this data with them? Or is it that they would just want to work from home, and maybe they're uploading it to their, one of their own cloud storage so they can work on it at home, but that isn't something that we want them to be able to do, because maybe it's, violating internal policies around, customer data, for example. And we can then actually have a look at individual users, and we can see what those individual users have been doing, which applications they've been using the environment, whether they've been using any risky applications, and what transactions they've been doing and uploading. So you can, by clicking on these applications, we can see here that Matthias has used 10 applications, and we can then see which applications he's been using, for example. So we can start building a really good view of exactly what's happening in your environment. And if there's any specific individuals within the business you want to keep a track on, you can start using this to get a view of that.
Brilliant.
So yeah, so we can have a look here. So we can have a look at, we've got I think you mentioned this before, we've got over 15,000 applications that we can have a look at. And we've actually, there is 16,068 applications that we've now got.
Wow.
We're constantly adding to that as well. So we can then see these are all the applications that we've got visibility of. So you can start having a look at these as well, getting an understanding of what your environment might be looking at. We can also start having a look at investigate what's going on as well. We can have a look at the activity, what we're seeing within the environment. We can see what users are logging onto the environment. We can understand maybe if there's some policies being violated. Is it that we're seeing specific files that are being uploaded to the cloud-based applications? Exactly what can we and what can't we see by those investigations? Just I'm going to quickly click on files here. So these are the files that we have seen with our environment being uploaded to the internet. And we can actually go over here to look at match file policies, and we can start seeing whether any file got any PCI data detected in that one. We can actually then use that and maybe integrate with the DLP technology that we've got on premise. We can actually start putting some controls in place around that. So have we got any files containing the PCI data here? This particular file, Northern Customer Data, that's been Megan Bowen has uploaded that. It's actually got 26 collaborators. Let's have a look at this particular incident. We can actually see here that the policy over here. So there's the policy that the file containing PCI data. That's the policy that's being violated in our environment. And here 26 collaborators. If we open that out, we can actually see that she's created a public link there. So she shared that publicly with everyone as well.
Do you know, that's one of the really common security issues that happen with cloud storage. You see it in the news with Amazon S3 buckets, and I'm sure it happens on other cloud storage solutions as well at OneDrive, where people accidentally create a link or tick the anonymous or don't tick or untick the anonymous access option. So people can, if they find out the link, can access it anonymously, which is a bit of a challenge. And in this case, this is a company that or that at least wants to be notified when documents containing PCI, so credit card numbers and things like that, are uploaded to the cloud. So OneDrive or whatever connected application, Amazon, Dropbox, you'll get the same alert, right? What can we do with it once we get the alert?
Yep. So if once we get the alert, we can actually have a look here at the various different actions that we've got. What we could do is we can make private. So to your point, what we could actually do is remove that public access on this particular file, or alternatively, we could remove particular collaborators with this environment, so we can increase the privacy there. We could also put a user in quarantine. This user's done something really bad, for example, and we can make sure that they're in a period of time that they are not able to do this type of activity until maybe we've gone and had a word with them and say, you really shouldn't be uploading that type of data, or if you do upload it, to your point, let's make sure we put the right permissions on that as well. So you can really start controlling there. Another useful one is putting classification labels onto the files as well. We can say, right, we want to make sure that this data's got customer data in. We can put this as classification data, and we could say this has got a confidential classification label, and then we can continue to put more policies through our environment on that as well. So there's a lot that we can do there.
And something I think is really worth noticing is you could potentially edit this this policy that has created this alert and apply the actions to happen automatically. So you could always, automate the fact that the document is automatically made private, or the document is automatically applied with a certain classification label, which then blocks people that aren't allowed to access PCI documents anyway. And you can build these up within an organization as well, creating new policies, which I think you're going to walk us through in a bit, right, John?
Yep, exactly that. So let's go and have a look at those policies we've got now. So if we go into the control tab here at the top, this is where we can start seeing all of the different policies that we've got within our environment here. So we can see sort of like, maybe
mass download from a single user, which normally means that someone's exiting the business and taking their sales contacts, or potentially their account's been compromised and an attacker's doing a mass download. I can see ransomware as well. That's pretty handy.
That is. So I mean, this is a really key one. So this is the ransomware activity. So as it says here, this policy profiles the environment and it triggers alerts if there's an activity pattern that's sort of like typical ransomware. So it could be, changing a large number of files to sort of like a .gzz file or .zip. So it could be that sort of like we can see those, and then we can send notifications. Or alternatively, we can actually put additional policies on place, which is, we could send alerts or text messages, and we can get people to respond to that really quickly.
Yeah, or block users and disable accounts, depending on what identity is actually doing that encryption. And what I think super smart is, once you've connected the applications to Cloud App Security, then you get that security alert on all of those applications, not just Microsoft ones.
Yep, exactly. So you can apply it to all of those. So it becomes really easy, and you can really start building out a really comprehensive policy for your organization here. But if we have a look at the different types of policies that we can create, we can create an activity policy. So what we could do, for example, is just that in this particular example, we could see, so every single activity that matches these filters, we could have a look to see whether or not someone is accessing from a specific location. So it could be that we want to alert if anyone accesses from Afghanistan and Albania, for example, and then we can turn around and say, right, well, hold on a minute, we weren't expecting anyone to be accessing any of our cloud application from Afghanistan and Albania, and we want to be able to sort of like get alerts based on those. So really quickly, you can sort of like start building up different activities and controls depending on what your organization is interested. So it's really quickly that you can build up those policies as well.
And the templates are kind of there for you to either turn on, modify, or copy and create from new, right?
Yeah, exactly that. So it just really sort of like helps users building those policies out rather than having to start from scratch. So it's a really convenient way where to give some guidance on what they can do as well. Great. So the other thing that we want to have a look at is just that, how do we get the data in the first place? So we can take this directly from specific data sources. So this might be sort of in this particular example, we're looking at different proxy servers or firewalls on premise. So we can, it could be that we're going to collect our data from a Blue Coat proxy, and then we can turn around and understand, right, are we going to use FTP or secure FTP or syslog to actually sort of collect the data into it. So we can add that data source really simply into our environment here. The other alternative is that we can use log collectors. For log collectors, they aggregate the firewalls and all the proxy servers in our environment, aggregate those all together, and then sends those directly up to the Cloud App Security in this environment. We can add a log collector by putting the name in, or what the specific IP address is in their environment, and again what those data sources are. So there's different ways that that they can actually sort of get the data into the environment, and then that will automatically then update all the time.
Brilliant.
And the other thing that's really cool is that if we wanted to turn around, so earlier on we saw those two unsanctioned applications that we talked about, so IIS and Cisco there in this particular environment. And if we wanted to actually block those in our environment, we can go to block apps and generate a block script, And here we could say, right, we've got a Blue Coat in our environment. What script do we actually need to put onto those particular proxy servers in order to block those unsanctioned applications? And what we've done here is that we've automatically created this script that we need to put onto those environments based on the unsanctioned applications that we've ticked. So all of those unsanctioned applications that we would go through and say, we don't want those particular cloud applications in our environment. Really quickly, what you can do, we've got the script here, we can copy and paste that into the Blue Coat proxy, and straight away we can get those applications blocked as well. So really quickly on how we're helping create those controls within the environment.
Brilliant.
And that's it. That's the sort of like the Cloud App Security interface that we wanted to cover. Do you think there's anything else that you wanted to see today, Tom?
I think probably the alerts is a good kind of overview. So that's where you configure all the policies using the templates and create them from your own, and they'll all go into a single place. And you can, like you mentioned earlier, you can output that to a SIEM as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So here we can, with policy violations, anything that we've seen unusual, sort of like, unusual logins, upload data, all of those pieces, that they all arrive here into the alerts, and we can then, like we said, we can then categorize them in this environment, and then they can then be uploaded to the SIEM, and they can be responded to. So it's a great tool, sort of like working with existing establishments. We use standard sort of like integration with those SIEMs, syslog and things like that. So again, we can quickly support those third-party tools as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, John.
Yeah, great. So what we would recommend is sort of like, maybe getting access to a trial. Really easy to get involved. It could either be part of your existing services if you've already got one of our E5 suites. Alternatively, if you have a look here, aka.ms/MCAS trial, you can quickly get advantage on that.
So that's effectively a free trial for Cloud App Security, the full access, which I think is definitely worth people playing with, because obviously it's free and you can just pump in a bunch of firewall data and use it as a discovery session to actually see what shadow IT is going on within your organization, because 99 times out of 100 you find something out that you weren't aware of.
Yep, exactly that. So they get a trial, they can sort of like take the logs straight away, run it in their environment, and create those reports. Customers and partners can start doing an assessment really quickly, and for 30 days they've got access to it, and they can go, this is what's going on in my environment, and get that visibility. Super easy, super quick. They just need to make sure they've got all the right logs, upload it, and then they can start getting visibility. So yeah, free trial for 30 days, really good place to start.
Brilliant. All right, thanks, John. Pleasure.
Thanks ever so much. So I think that's the end of it for the Cloud App Security this week.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks, mate. So to everyone on the call, let us know if the session was useful, and also what session do you want next. So you voted for this session. If you go to that link that's on the screen at the moment, tell us what you want for the next session as well, and we'll get on that and do a demo for you. Cool. Thanks again to John for walking us through that, and thanks to everyone for listening.
Pleasure, Tom. Thanks very much. Goodbye, everyone.